Me. Great to see some familiar faces. So a quick, thanks. So a quick agenda. What we'll do, we'll introduce the panel here. We'll walk through 3 different areas. We'll walk through the SR&ED program a little bit. Denise will take over and talk grants, and then Ibrahim will cover some other financial instruments, and then we'll spend a little bit of time working through a worksheet that you see on your tables. And really, those are just very general guidelines. The goal there will be to, well, I'll walk through it in more detail afterwards. So I'm gonna let everyone say hi first, and then we'll jump into a quick presentation and go from there.
Thanks, Curtis, for having us. Denise from the Grant Sherpa. I just wanted to say, we started the Grant Sherpa 10 years ago. I'll tell a little bit of the story later, but we've seen a lot of change happening in grants, but there is a ton of money, and Alberta leads the way with funding. But what I wanted to say this morning from the sessions is that excited to hear strategy is key, because we lead with strategy. The other part is that there's stress, good stress and bad stress, and we hope to convert people from bad stress around grants to good stress. And then the last thing, I'm not sure if there's anyone else that could raise their hand to join me in this, but when I heard about looking at a scan of my brain, I thought, oh my God, someone would see the three hamsters running on my treadmill. Has anyone else got those hamsters running in their brain? Yeah. So I work with fast growth companies who always have those hamsters going on, and looking forward to figuring out how we can reduce the stress for them.
Go. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Abraham here. I'm the Director of Innovation and Technology with BDC, covering Western Canada. So excited to be here. But just a quick show of hands, who knows BDC? Oh, perfect. More than expected, That's exactly it. What we do is we're focused on providing growth capital solutions that are a mixture of working capital, quasi-solutions, quasi-equity, or convertible notes. We're able to grow companies, help them scale up, and hopefully get to where. So I'm excited to sit down with you guys for the next session, have a conversation, and go from there.
Great, thanks, Ibrahim. Maybe we'll do a little bit of that quick show of hands in the room that I can see. Who has been a part of a SR&ED or scientific research and experimental development filing in their company? Luke and Dilip don't count. Great. And in that, anyone has actually done the technical writing or filling out of the tax forms required for that? A few? Okay. You don't count. How about grants? Anyone done any full grant writing and applications in the room? Chase, you don't count. Awesome. And everyone deals with the bank. But anyone maybe...
No one?
Okay.
No one?
Good. Always good to know the context there. Whoa, was that me?
Bringing so much money they don't
Woo!
need it.
Awesome, this is sensitive, I like it. We'll skip here. So a little bit, we'll do a bit of a SR&ED 101 or intro for everyone. The largest government incentive in Canada, over $4 billion annually. The 2025 March fiscal data came out recently. I think 4.4 billion claimed, 4.2 billion allowed. So growing. I think 10 years ago it was closer to 2.8 billion. So the program is growing. And that's made up of a federal portion from the CRA, and then every individual province, not the territories, but each province has their own, call it provincial top-up, but everything you typically see is going to be the entire program in its entirety, so the provincial and the federal numbers combined. The program itself is a retroactive program, so it's an entitlement, obviously, very different from grant. You are not asking the government for money, you are telling the CRA. We did this work as per the Income Tax Act, therefore we are eligible for it, we'd like our refund, versus asking for something up front. Just a very different mentality and a very different approach to the program. I always say it's similar to making an RRSP contribution. You're entitled to that tax benefit. You'd never tell the CRA to keep that money. So similar to SR&ED. It is written into law and you are entitled to it. Expenses, I'll go through in a little bit detail later, but there's 2 key elements, technical eligibility and then financial expenditures. Who's eligible to claim SR&ED? Any industry. So there's no limitation on industry that can apply for SR&ED. Any industry, provided you are doing work that technically is eligible for the program and spending money in Canada on that program, you're going to be eligible to file a SR&ED application. Project eligibility, so I won't go into the weeds here, but there is the CRA definition of what's eligible for SR&ED, the why and the how. So they want to see that you are taking on the activity for the purpose of advancing scientific knowledge or achieving technological advancement. What that should feel like in your business is you are taking a risk, and that risk is based on the technology, not the business risk, not the product market fit, not the user risk, but you are advancing an area of science or technology, and there is a feeling of unknown in the outcome. We're going to take on this project. We're not sure if it's going to work because of the known methods out in the open source world. And then they do want to see a systematic or scientific approach to that work, which is removing the shotgun approach. So you shoot spaghetti at the wall, something sticks and it works, great. Not likely going to be a strong starting point for a SR&ED eligible project. So a bit of the financial side of things, and these numbers have baked in. If you do a Google search, you're going to see different numbers for the federal and the provincial and overheads, but just a general rate of return on the buckets of expenditures. If all are present in a business, you're going to be in that kind of, think 45% or 45 cents on the dollar's return. So very material returns, very material benefit to companies. Most small and medium-sized enterprises in Canada are going to qualify for a cash refund. So it is an ITC or investment tax credit, but that's going to come back to you into the business as a cash refund from the CRA. Larger or non-Canadian owned companies are going to be a traditional tax credit against taxes owing. So that's a real quick and dirty SR&ED 101. Lots of time for questions throughout the next 50 minutes, 45 minutes that I'd be happy to answer. But I will pass it over to Denise and let her do her spiel.
Thanks. So I just want to talk about, I started in 2015. What had happened, if anyone was here at that time, we had kind of a crunch in oil and gas and people weren't spending money. And at the time I had a training and speaking network and no one was spending money. And all my businesses that were impacted by that were feeling the pain. At the time the government offered some sessions in terms of how they're going to grow the economy, and I attended a lot of those sessions. From that, I met a guy in the government who said, hey, Denise, you've got a business network. We're trying to launch this grant. We're doing a terrible job. Could we do something collaboratively? I said, absolutely. Tell me what it's about. And that's how I landed into the grant space. But what happened was I went to companies and I said, hey, there's this really cool money that you could use to grow your business. And they said, that's great, but we hate grants. And I said, why do you hate them? And they said, because we go through this process for 3 months, we submit it, and then they get back to us and tell us we didn't get the money and don't tell us why. So it's a total waste of our time. But if you want to waste your time and help us, we'll do it. So I did, and we closed money. And then they said to me, hey, Denise, we're interested in innovation. Is there money for that? And I went, I don't know, let me go see. And I literally stumbled into this gap that I experienced 10 years ago, that if you're still working on grants, you'll see that there's still an opportunity and a gap in this space in terms of the resources, how to find the resources, how to prepare your information. The metrics in terms of measuring them are constantly changing, even now. So we started out there, and then, oh, the host is moving. So we started out the Grant Sherpa 10 years ago to help companies, and what we say is people come to us for grants, but then they stay with us for connections. So with every client that we work with, we're constantly looking at where the opportunities are to connect them to other service providers. I see some of them in the room today. And so our goal is to really help those companies win through grants. And grants are in different areas. Well, there's 5 buckets of funding, but, oh, backwards. Oh, this is sensitive. So I just want to talk about key areas where grant funding is. So we just kind of generally grouped buckets. Research and development is the largest bucket. Federally, provincially, there's different money. And did you know that Alberta is the best province to do research and development? Woo! Yeah, it's awesome. And I work with companies across Canada, so sometimes I'm trying to convert them to move here. And actually, and if the companies as well, we work with sometimes Invest Alberta, and we work with companies that are moving to Canada. Do you have any guess where they first, when they think about moving to Canada, where they want to go? Toronto. Next? No. But
BC.
Good guess. BC. Yeah, BC is the next. And so when I have a conversation with them about, tell me about what your company is trying to do here. You know, what kind of employees are you looking for? What kind of talent? What kind of costs? What kind of resources are you building? What's that infrastructure? They then find out that Alberta is the place to be. So research and development is the largest. It's often for people to hire people, grants to hire people. It can be used for IP protection. There's all kinds of different resources that you can use. Contractors that you need to kind of develop your project. We just talked about AI. There's money to support AI. There's a new program coming out called AI Compute that should be launched soon for large-scale projects in AI, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, research and development is one of the big areas. Training, there's money to help upskill and train. The Alberta Jobs Grant was closed last fall. It's opening again in about a month. The rules are changing. We don't know what they are yet, but that should be opening as well to help you upskill. Hiring grants, student grants are open all the time. There's some eco-friendly jobs and environmental job funding right now for full-time roles. There's money to help you expand business scale-up and productivity, which is a zero-interest loan between $250,000 and $5 million is available. There's also a program, RAII, for if you're expanding into AI and developing your company in the AI space. There's sector grants, so grants are also in agriculture, healthcare, digital tech, manufacturing, so there's lots of different resources there. And then export. So companies that are trying to build their company outside of Canada, there's money to hire you to help them grow in Africa. And then there's also export innovation. If you're trying to grow and work in another country with another company, there's money there as well. So what we try to do is just help people figure out where is the money, what is your company doing? Let's figure out the strategy first, where the money lays in along the roadmap, and then work with these wonderful gentlemen and their company organizations to be able to help you get the funding roadmap built out for you.
Okay, so I've been warned this is very clicky and very touchy, so I'll be very gentle with it. So as mentioned, I'm just gonna digress for a second. I do say, yes, I do agree Alberta is one of the best places to be in Canada right now. I've lived in 5 different provinces the past couple of years, and I do think here we have the most opportunities, most space. So as mentioned here, Abraham here, we're BDC, and I see this fund did not go very well when we pasted here. But you can see we are fueling the growth of entrepreneurs. So BDC is the Business Development Bank of Canada. We are the Crown Corp and the arm for the government to actually support Canadian businesses. A lot of countries don't have that, so I'm grateful to be in Canada where we're able to do that. So what is, that's, I thought I was gonna be gentle, I was not. There we go. So who are we? We have over 100,000 clients across Canada. We're all businesses only. We work with 1 out of 12 SMEs across Canada and also have a 93% client satisfaction. There we go. Got it. So what makes us different, honestly, is that we're there to have flexibility. We're there to ensure that businesses are supported, and we're there to actually be a partner in the journey versus just a bank. I've worked in banks in so many years right now. I've worked in institutions. I've started and still operate my businesses. I know how important it is to be a banking partner. So we break it into 3 different arms. We do have the financing, capital, which where I am, and advisory services. The financing is that we do help, and I see also like nothing was pasted correctly here from my side, so apologies for how bare this looks like. Just imagine all the little things around it. So we are patient, a flexible lender. We're able to help you start a business, invest in technology, transfer business, export. So we work a lot with these folks here in terms of SR&ED, grants, and so on, because we want to see this in their companies. And lastly, also invest in real estate, purchase equipment, and so on. Next one, where I sit down, is the BDC Capital. And we do have the growth potential capital where I sit down. I work for companies from all the way to startups, revenue generating, just to be honest, and to all the way to public companies. And I work with them across Western Canada to unlock some actual non-dilutive finance that go through it. We also have a venture capital arm, so that's the dilutive. And the other one is growth equity partners where we grow it. Lastly, IP as well, where we help finance your IP, grow with it. So advisory services is the last one. Fun fact, we're Canada's largest consulting firm by number of clients, as we have thousands of them, and we can help in all different ways to impact the business and grow it. So yeah, I'm excited for us to go there.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Abraham, Mike. With one question, when is an optimal time for any business to talk to you? and BDC?
From the beginning, I think from day one, have a conversation, reach out. I think most of us are very friendly in BDC, including myself, I hope so, where reach out, have a conversation, because that way I can tell you, if not right now, when is a good time? What do you need to prepare? What do you need to have? Similar to you guys as well. If it's not right now, there are some things you have to keep in mind of that. So don't hesitate. Don't think you're too early or too late or what kind of situation. There's always a solution that we can adapt and solution that we can think of.
Denise, I'm going to ask you the same question.
We welcome anyone, startups to scale-ups in terms of their readiness factor. And often what we find is if a company comes to us and they're too early to kind of work with us in terms of helping them with grants, we can refer them to peer guidance, or we can growth catalyst program, or an accelerated program, a platform Calgary. Like, we're really trying to help connect them to the right resources. And sometimes, they'll say to me, Denise, we want to buy a property. And I'll say, well, that's not grant fundable, but Abraham can help you here along the way. Or they're telling me about, we spent all this money on R&D and blah, blah, blah. Have you done SR&ED yet? And then we connect them to Curtis. So our goal really is to help put people in front of the right people at the right time. And then often what happens is when they get to the right space, they come back to us when they need help.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a trick question because I think I knew the answer, and I'll say the same in our world. You want to get as proactive as you possibly can. So SR&ED is a retroactive program. There needs to be meaningful expenditures that are happening, so you're likely a bit further on in the journey before it becomes relevant. But 15, 30 minutes with someone to help you understand. One of my favorite lines that I say a lot is sometimes the value is letting business leaders know when not to worry about SR&ED. It takes up a lot of airspace. It can get into people's minds. And often the best advice is stop worrying about it and think about it 18 months from now because you have 10,000 other things that you should be.
Can I just add to that? So one of the things that I tell people often is have a call with Curtis, because if you set it up right the first time, you're not spending hours and hours trying to find the data that you need for the program. So if he can help people structure how to set it up and what data you need to gather and how to collect that data so that you streamline your process.
Yeah, and there's a wrong time to talk, and it's now June 6th, which I've got 2 meetings this afternoon for people trying to sneak in under the deadline. So that's the wrong time. So 18 months ago would have been great for those folks. So we're gonna do a little bit of a pause here and do some interactive work, and I'm gonna caveat that you can work alone. This is my trauma from group projects in university showing. I'm not gonna force anyone to do a group project, but and I'll get some info hopefully to the folks online. There are some worksheets on the table. They're just a guideline. And what we wanted to do was take 10, 15 minutes, and Denise and Ibrahim and I'll walk around, and you can ask us questions. We can talk about the worksheet. This is more a function of take some time, think about, primarily if you have it, your own business that you're in and working in, and try and fit into that model where we're looking for, there's a few key milestones. So if you're not necessarily in a growth or scaling or funding stage, imagine back to when that was or in the future when that will be, and slot in some of those milestones. So we had 2 different worksheets. One was more of a software style company, not tangible materials, the other being a manufacturing where there's maybe more material or capital costs. So use those as a guideline. Create some milestones. There's some suggestions in there, but feel free, please, to customize it. Take a little bit of time to think about that funding strategy and what tools or what levers would you think of pulling. On the second sheet, Denise provided a great list of grant opportunities that are out there just to refresh your memory. So take a stab at that. We'll wander around, answer questions, and just chat with you folks as well. And then we'll kind of regroup, run through that, answer more questions, and go from there. So if that's all good, I'm going to put the mic down. We'll wander around and chat with you folks and take a few minutes, and we'll regroup in however long it takes, 10 or 15. Okay. We'll say 5 more minutes, wrap up some conversations, and then we'll reconvene. We'll say 1 more minute. I'm gonna call Ibrahim and Denise back up, even though they're Coming back. No, we're gonna come back.
Okay. I didn't miss you.
No.
Very engaged Masterclass.
Yes, it was. That was the most engaged masterclass ever. We can say these things. Do it.
Thanks, everybody. Hate to interrupt conversations, because that was the whole point, was to get folks chatting, and but we will interrupt and kind of wrap up. I'm gonna. So just in walking around and chatting, I know we all kind of saw some themes, so I'm going to let Denise chat a little bit about what she saw. Please, if you're thinking about a question about anything, now's the time. We're going to put a few folks on the spot if they want to volunteer and talk about the funding pathway that they've created, and that can be a part of your question. But yeah, just a summary of kind of what we saw.
Yeah, awesome conversations. Thanks, you guys, for welcoming us. One of the things that I saw consistently was thinking about the importance of planning and thinking about all the things you're doing as a company before you jump into the funding landscape. And I think that really helps you understand, where do we invest, where do we start, what's going to action our process. So I think that was one of the things that I noticed.
Absolutely. I think actually retweeting that. Can I say retweet? I don't know. Reacting that? Okay, reacting that. A lot of people actually talking about where do you go in long term, and I think it's important to understand your long-term trajectory. Because trajectory of a traditional business where you're bootstrapped, working on things, is a lot different than a company who's willing to go for, let's raise, burn, raise, burn, raise, burn, and so on. And also think about, like, what's the long-term exit? You know, I think a lot of people talk, oh, well, we'll just raise that much money. But remember, right now, the exits are very limited. So the money is sometimes now made through actually making money in the business itself. And I think we're going back into the idea right now of having fiscally responsible businesses where you're good there, you're working on it, and talking to those phenomenal people, and make sure you stretch your dollar a bit.
I don't like that word, fiscally responsible. It gets tossed around my household too often. I'll add to that, say the same thing, and maybe the planning, you know, that this was meant to be a little bit loosely formatted. Maybe that was frustrating. Like, what are we supposed to be doing? And that would be my takeaway in doing this for the last half a decade, talking to folks. There is no black and white blueprint to doing this, but you do need to have a plan, and you should have milestones and goals, knowing full well that they're going to change and iterate. But there is no blueprint. If there was, everyone would do it, and it is the people behind it. So having a plan and creating it. Does anyone want to volunteer what they mapped out? I'm going to put you guys on the spot if no one wants to volunteer. No one? I heard you speak at last year's Scale Out, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Shannon.
Damn you. Our grant guy left, by the way. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we talk, it's part choose your own adventure, part kind of, you know, test and run into a barrier, then go another way. So I love the conversation around build a strategy for your company. It's, I think, the purpose of having this. So initially we talked a lot about, well, if we're pre-revenue, you know, we're not going to talk to Abraham. What's out there? We didn't realize until later on that there was a cheat sheet on the back, by the way. Based on experience, we said, you know, let's go talk to Alberta Innovates, get a micro voucher, look at digital traction. Then we looked at, he left at the right time. Then also looked at grants for doing a pilot demo. I won't talk about the breakdown. Then the R&D hire, looked at grants, and then also bringing BDC into it. So less about the technical parts of it, more about just great discussion around, you know, like I said, choose your own adventure / we can't do that yet, too early, let's go that way. Fair enough?
That's great. Thanks for playing along. Any questions? No one wants to volunteer? I told Taryn I was going to pick on her too from Cube, just maybe share a little bit about your experience with grants and funding. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Taryn Humphreys with Cube Technologies. I only did part of the exercise, but I'll talk about just Cube's experience. We've done a lot of grant funding right from the get-go. So we do continuous emissions monitorings. We have both hardware and software. And what we've done, or I think quite successfully, is we approached grant funding from two different lenses. One is the small things that kept us along. When we talked about Alberta Innovates, we did their micro voucher, then their voucher, then their R&D associates, and then their, commercialization associates and R&D associates. So we found that once we did one of their applications, it was a little bit of a rinse and repeat. So I will say that if you've done one, do the next ones, move along, and they've set it up well to be able to move you along their program. So we've been really successful at that. At the same time, we also did provincial funding through Emissions Reduction Alberta, and so those are pretty chunky, very sizable grants. So a lot of effort in, but a lot of capital back, which is awesome. And at the same time, then we had federal funding through SDTC, so Sustainable Development Technology Canada, now NRCan, IRAP. So we actually had very similar projects that we could be doing concurrently with very similar milestones. So it was a bit of that, we've done one, same thing, take it, move it to the next funding. So we actually are now successfully doing our third SDTC project. And we had one very chunky ERA project as well. And then in and amongst that, we did other programs where we could have funding to bring on other partners. So we did CRIN funding, brought on a number of partners through that. And then through NGIF, we did fun. Again, I've been involved with a lot of this, so I feel like I have, when you're talking about the post-traumatic, I'm like, oh yeah, I've done a lot of these applications. And then I told my company I needed a break from doing this. I'm like, okay, now I just want to go work with the clients and sell more. But one of the big things I will say is with these funding programs, you can really leverage then the in-kind contributions from the partners that you bring on and make that project bigger so that you're receiving more funding back in your own company's pocket. And then ultimately bringing those partners to scale, and we've done that really well. Now they're some of our biggest clients. We've brought on through the funding programs. We're able to subsidize hardware, and software, and now they've grown with us. So that's a huge benefit. So yeah.
Thank you, Taryn, for playing along. And maybe a summary there. There's so many opportunities available. There are a multitude, and they will lead to very different and greater outcomes than just funding in the business, those partnerships. And I'm not going to talk about, I'm going to want to give Denise and Ibrahim a few minutes to wrap up and talk a little bit about just overarching themes. And maybe, I think grants for me often come first when people are coming and saying, I need funding. So I want to let Denise kind of share a few moments of wisdom here before we wrap up.
My first words of wisdom is get someone to help you because your hair is going to go gray if you do it on your own. Oh, sorry, Jade. No, I think it's really important to have conversations with people about the resources. So thanks for your information just about CUBE's journey. I think talk to companies, right? Talk to other companies in terms of what their journey is, what they did, because that can really help you. Get connected to accelerators in the ecosystem in the community. We have wonderful ecosystems for energy and agriculture, and there's all kinds of resources around us and partners, right, in this space. But the thing about it, again, is just think about the planning from the start. Just because I know when we were talking earlier, when you go to do SR&ED, if you're not planned at the start of it, it's going to be a heck of a journey to try to pull that information to get the right data. Also with grants, you really want to know where you're at in the roadmap and what you're planning going forward, because you may miss out on opportunities that are coming that you may not know that exist. So have conversations to be really well planned so you can be more successful and maximize the funding. And then the last thing that I want to say is grants aren't only there to kind of help you win. Grants also give you credibility with the government to get more grants. So just like you said, once you start getting grants, you may go to IRAP, and now IRAP has said, hey, we're going to fund this part of your project. Then you go to Alberta Innovates. Well, IRAP funded you, so it must be successful. Then you capture IP money because they say, yeah, for sure, you're doing all this. So it has an influence. And then the other area that most of our clients are raising capital. And so your investors want to know that there's a moat around your business and that there's some value around it. And so if they want to see you maximizing. We work sometimes with investors, and they'll say, Denise, we're working with a company. They're not doing a good job with they're maximizing their grant funding. Can you help them, right? Because they want to know that if they're going to put dollars into your company, they want to know you're maximizing it as well.
Perfect. Well, I'll first just digress for a second and say, as a person, I am the worst customer person that customer service can meet. This hands down. When I don't take no for an answer by any means, and I always imply people to do the same exact way. most no's that you get from other people, from banks, from other institutions, sometimes they're not real. Sometimes they're just convenient no's. So when you take those no's, just take them at face value. Be like, okay, sure. Take the 5, 6, 7 no's, and then it goes on. The next part is actually understanding there are multiple corresponding and multiple partnership, as you mentioned, between financial institutions and investors and so on. It gives you this merit and the chip on your shoulder when you say, oh, I'm working with BDC and EDC, Innovates, got Shreds, got every those ones. We actually feel better when you come in prepared. So when I come in, let's say if someone was like, oh yeah, I have exhausted everything from Shred, grants, I've got everything. I've been running this for so long now, but I need more money. Immediately they've gained more credibility for me, myself, because they've actually done the work, versus coming to like, oh, Abraham, I don't know what to do. Please just give me money. And I've seen those ones, it becomes a little bit tough. So truly understand your purpose, your objective, understand how you're working on your business, who are your right partners around, and have a community. I think that's there's a community around. It gets very lonely sometimes being a business owner or working in business. So have people you can tap in the shoulder, talk to, and then just kind of trauma load on them. That's it.
Thanks, Ibrahim. Thanks, Denise. And I think we're probably a little bit behind, so I'll wrap up quickly and just say maybe the theme that I see and that I continue to see is try and get proactive and have a plan and find some expertise. There's no one size fits all. Copoint's been around for 30 years doing this and we're good at it, but there's other guys in the room that I've actually had the chance to work with that do a great job. So not everyone is the right fit for every business. Spend a bit of time, network, get involved with folks like Denise and Ibrahim, and get connected to these networks of trusted advisors who will help you finalize that roadmap and then, of course, iterate through it as it takes huge left turns and right turns on you. So thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us. Hopefully you learned something. Thanks to Simon and the team for having us here at this event. And I think it's lunch. So
fantastic.
Well, take over. Thank you.
Yeah, a formal thank you for all of you and show our appreciation for the panel.